Quintus Sextus, he best honors God, who makes his intellect as like God as possible. Baruch Spinoza, whatsoever is, isn't God, and without God nothing can be, or be conceived. Elizabeth Gouge, we all of us try to make God in our image. It is one of the worst of our temptations. Karl Hauslander, nothing could be more untrue than the often repeated statement that we all worship the same God, or that other, that whatever we worship the result is the same. Avicenna, God, the Supreme Being, is neither circumscribed by space, nor touched by time. He cannot be found in a particular direction, and his essence cannot change. Annie Besant, the true mystic, realizing God, has no need of any scriptures, for he has touched the source whence all scriptures flow. William Ellery Channing, true, religion consists in proposing, as our great end, a growing likeness to the Supreme Being. Its noblest influence consists in making us more partakers of the divinity. Charles Colson, God is dead not because he doesn't exist, but because we live, play, procreate, govern, and die as though he doesn't. Lily Tomlin, why is it when we talk to God we're said to be praying, but when God talks to us, we're said to be schizophrenic? Radislav Rachoyi, if you do not know your heart, you do not know your God. Quintus Sextus, you have in yourself something similar to God, and therefore use yourself as the temple of God on account of that which in you resembles God. George Bernard Shaw, beware the man whose God is in the skies. Ludwig Feuerbach, God is for man the commonplace book where he registers his highest feelings and thoughts, the genealogical album into which he enters the names of the things most dear and sacred to him. Gregory of Nyssa, the love of gain, which is a large, incalculably large element in every soul, when once applied to the desire of God, will bless the man who has it. Basil of Caesarea, when the mind is not dissipated upon extraneous things, nor diffused over the world about us through the senses, it withdraws within itself, and of its own accord ascends to the contemplation of God. Robert Bridges, Goddess, love is inescapable as nature's environment, which if a man ignore, or think to thrust it off, he is the ill-natured fool that runneth on to death. G.K. Chesterton, I tell you this, that you will have found out the truth of the last tree and the topmost cloud. Before the truth about me, you will understand the sea, and I shall be still a riddle. You will know what the stars are, and not know what I am. Leo Tolstoy, God alone exists truly. Man manifests him in time, space, and matter. Gerhard von Rad, all true knowledge of God begins with the knowledge of his hiddenness. Helena Roerich, by propagating the dogma of Jesus Christ as the only begotten Son of God, the Church contradicts the very sense of the prayer given to us by Jesus Christ himself. Our Father which art in heaven. William Shakespeare, and to add greater honors to his age than man could give him, he died fearing God. Baruch Spinoza, God is the indwelling and not the transient cause of all things. Albert Hoffman, consciousness is God's gift to mankind. Agni, Yoga, what is meant by mad and God? Why were the prophets of antiquity called madmen? Precisely because of the fire of straight knowledge, which isolated them from all else, a valuable quality that severed them from the ordinary, everyday ways of thinking. Basil of Caesarea, we thus become temples of God. Whenever earthly cares cease to interrupt the continuity of our memory of Him. Rabbi Chambrook, it's not my job to be God's lawyer. I'm His salesman. I do believe He's the greatest thing that ever existed, and I encourage people to get to know Him without trying to explain what He's doing or why. Arthur C. Clarke, it may be that our role on this planet is not to worship God, but to create Him. A.W. Tozer, to be right with God has often meant to be in trouble with men. Gene Roddenberry, therefore, if we are part of God, then our lives are not brief meaningless things, but rather have a great importance and significance. Quintus Sextus, the greatest honor which can be paid to God is to know and imitate Him. Book of Moses. For behold, this is my work and my glory to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of man. Galileo Galilei, I do not feel obliged to believe that the same God who has endowed us with senses, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their uses and by some other means to give us knowledge, which we can attain by them. Albert Hoffman. God only speaks to those who understand the language. Augustine of Hippo, for He is called omnipotent on account of His doing what He wills, not on account of His suffering what He wills not, for if that should befall Him, He would by no means be omnipotent, wherefore He cannot do some things for the very reason that He is omnipotent. Georges Bataille, if I said decisively, I have seen God, that which I see would change, instead of the inconceivable unknown wildly free before me. Leaving me wild and free before it, there would be a dead object and the thing of the theologian, to which the unknown would be subjugated. William Ellery Channing. Religious instruction should aim chiefly to turn men's aspiration and efforts to that perfection of the soul, which constitutes it a bright image of God. William Cowper. God never meant that men should scale the heavens by strides of human wisdom. In His works, though wondrous, He commands us in His word to seek Him rather where His mercy shines. Rabindranath Tagore. Every child comes with the message that God is not yet discouraged of humanity. Helena Roerich. The ruling principle of the universe is one of harmony, and love God is love. Therefore, if we wish to embody the most ancient axiom, as above, so below, we should become unified precisely upon this principle of love and should be subordinate to it, regarding it as our only boundless ruler. Ludwig Feuerbach, by positing God as unknowable, man excuses himself to what is still left of his religious conscience, for his oblivion of God, his surrender to the world. He negates God in practice. His mind and his senses have been absorbed by the world, but he does negate Him in theory. Mustafa Aman in The Savage says, but all the same, it is natural to believe in God when you're alone, quite alone, in the night, thinking about death. Mustafa Aman replies, but people never are alone now. We make them hate solitude, and we arrange their lives so that it's almost impossible for them ever to have it. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. To everyone God is the kind of God he believes in. Martin Farquhar. God, from a beautiful necessity, is love in all He doth. Quintus Sextus. A good intellect is the choir of divinity. John Adams. When we say God is a spirit, we know what we mean, as well as we do when we say that the pyramids of Egypt are matter. Let us be content Therefore, to believe him to be a spirit, that is, an essence that we know nothing of, in which originally and necessarily reside all energy, all power, all capacity, all activity, all wisdom, all goodness. Francis Collins, reason alone cannot prove the existence of God. Faith is reason plus revelation, and the revelation part requires one to think with the spirit as well as with the mind. You have to hear the music, not just read the notes on the page. Mohandas Karam Changani, it is beyond my power to induce in you a belief in God. There are certain things which are self-proved and certain which are not proved at all. If I exist, God exists. With me it is a necessity of my being as it is with millions. We are less than atoms, I say, because the atom obeys the law of its being, whereas we in the insolence of our ignorance deny the law of nature. But I have no argument to address. To those who have no faith, Alice Bailey, the Eastern faiths have ever emphasized God immanent, deep within the human heart, nearer than hands and feet, the self, the one, the Atma, smaller than the small, yet all comprehensive. The Western faiths have presented God transcendent, outside his universe, an onlooker. God transcendent, first of all, conditioned men's concept of deity. For the action of this transcendent God appeared in the process of nature. Later, in the Jewish dispensation, God appeared as the tribal Jehovah, as the soul of a nation. Next, God was seen as a perfected man, and the divine God-man walked the earth in the person of Christ. Rainer Maria Rilke, a thought struck me abruptly. My God, you do exist, then. There are proofs of your existence. I had forgotten them all, and never demanded any either. For what an overwhelming obligation would come with this certainty. Gregory, in vain do they think themselves innocent who appropriate to their own use alone those goods, which God gave in common. By not giving to others that which they themselves receive, they become homicides and murderers. Inasmuch as in keeping for themselves those things which would alleviate the sufferings of the poor, we may say that every day they cause the death of as many persons as they might have fed and did not. Percy Bysshe Shelley, if he is infinitely good, what reason should we have to fear him? If he is infinitely wise, why should we have doubts concerning our future? If he knows all, why warn him of our needs and fatigue him with our prayers? If he is everywhere, why erect temples to him? Stephen L. Carter, although every believing Christian understands that God guides our steps, fewer emphasize the point. A God working actively in the world makes us uneasy. We tend to like our God distant and a bit malleable, ready to bend to every new human idea. A God with a will of his own is too scary, and besides, he might get in the way of our satisfaction, of immediate desire. Theodore Roosevelt's, in the presence of infinite might and infinite wisdom, the strength of the strongest man is but weakness, a weakness.